up. Oops. Maybe I'll take the lens cap off the YouTube webcam. There we go. What is that? Oh, that's better. Okay, hello. Oh, I got someone turning up now. Just getting all organized. Because remember, I'm also filming on YouTube at the same time. So we're just going to wait for people to turn up. While we're waiting, I'd love to know, Catherine Lynn, have you been here before? I think that name looks familiar. So it's an unusual way of spelling Catherine. And Eva Moan. Both look familiar. I could be wrong. Anyway, where are you from? I'm here in Vancouver, Canada, and it's pouring rain here, but it's not snowing. Thank goodness. We had snow last week. We do not know how to drive in the snow here. We've got very wet, slippery snow, and we don't have snow tires. Most of us don't have snow tires. We're terrible because we don't always get much snow. So anyway, I'm glad the snow is gone. So where are you from? As I just complained, where it's pouring rain. Actually, a lot of people say they complain about the rain here in Vancouver. But Vancouver is a rainforest. That's why it's full of mountains and gorgeous greenery. You can't have green without rains. I was born here. It doesn't bother me. But I did live in Australia for 20 years. That was nice. Beautiful weather. Okay, so... Okay, we got enough people here. We'll just get going. This is not one of my regularly scheduled lives. New Zealand. Hi, New Zealand. We used to ski in Queenstown when we lived in Australia. Beautiful. I love New Zealand. For anyone who doesn't know, Queenstown's a South Island. There's two islands in New Zealand. And Queenstown, the skiing is down in South Island. Montreal. Hi, Montreal. I've never been there. I've done a lot of traveling in my life, mostly when I was young. And I always went overseas, like I never traveled in Canada. And so, yeah, maybe one day I'll get out there. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. Shoot. Okay, just a sec here. While I'm waiting, there's lots of questions that come in from all different places that would be of interest to you, I'm sure. One of them is, do you discipline a tantrum? Someone asked me that recently. No, you don't, because a tantrum isn't bad behavior. A tantrum is a loss of emotional control at hearing the word no, at not getting what they want, when they want, and how they want it. So you never discipline the loss of emotional control. Okay, but when they're 3 and older, you can discipline what they do during a tantrum. So let's say that they pick up a glass and throw it across the room. As soon as they've calmed down and the tantrum's over, you can address the fact that they threw something and broke it. But you still don't talk about a tantrum. You never give a tantrum any attention or any weight before, during, or after. So yeah, you do not discipline a tantrum. It's a really good question. I don't know why more people don't ask me that, because I would think I would ask that. Like, do you just, because tantrums drive parents insane. So I can see why parents would think you should discipline a tantrum, but yeah, you can't. Okay, so I'm just waiting for your questions. In the meantime, I got lots of questions here in the background from other people waiting. Oh yeah, and another one is, why do you not put tantrums on the behavior board? Well, because you don't punish tantrums, so it makes total sense, right? Okay. Sorry, I've just got a whole bunch of stuff here. Got so many different questions. Actually, I don't usually answer questions because, like, unless they're on a live, I get like hundreds of comments and messages a day. I just can't look at them all. So yeah, I feel bad about that, but I just don't have the time. So, but yeah, anyway, so I've got, every so often I'll go in and I'll answer comments and that, but it's rare. I'm going to try and do that more often. I'm going to try and go in and answer more comments and look at messages. If you want to get a hold of me, email me if it's something, and I don't answer questions on email. I only answer questions here on lives. If it's just a general parenting question, I won't answer that on email. I just can't, because I literally would get hundreds of them. So yeah, I just can't. Oops. Sorry, I'm just deleting some of these questions. Some of them were about Christmas and I never got to them. Okay, so do you have any parenting questions? That's what I'm here for. This is a Q&A. I've got the A's. I need the Q's from you. And I do have a whole bunch of them listed that I've collected from comments on the videos. If you want me to just do those. Oh, no, I don't like that one. I'm just going to I thought they were good ones, and I'm going back, and I think, no, there's a lot of repeats here. So, Oh, right. Okay. Sorry, I've got all these funny things I wrote down. Okay, my kids are 6 and 8 years old, often compete against each other. How can I handle this? Whenever you have sibling rivalry, there's a good way of dealing with it, but I'll tell you what parents often do, which is really the wrong thing to do, is when you've got kids who don't get along, is that they often do one-on-one time with each kid. It's like the worst thing you can do because it builds resentment. So what you do is you play with your kids and you play to the youngest one, the weakest link. So something they can do, and you don't play anything competitive. You play with them together. And it's always something sort of silly. Why is my alarm going off? Oh no, it's my exercise thing. So many buzzers going off all the time. It's like, what was that? What does that mean? Sometimes an alarm will go off and I'm like this. Oh, anyway, I don't even know what it's for. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so you play with them and you always do something silly. Like my kids were 5 years apart, a boy and a girl. They didn't have a lot in common. What they did have in common was when we would play and do silly stuff, like the three of us, they would laugh at me. They bonded over laughing at mom. So yeah, just do silly stuff with your kids. Look up silly things to do with your kids. So lots of stuff on YouTube, way more ideas than I could ever come up with. And some of the stuff I came up with was, it's not going to suit everybody. It's crazy. Okay, Leslie Hamlin. I love watching your videos. I have a 7-year-old son who doesn't listen and can be disrespectful with his responses. Just a sec. Trying to hit this. Any thoughts? Yeah, check out my behavior board. That's completely free. It's in the link above or in my profile, wherever it is on Facebook here. And the behavior board, it's a rule and a consequence for every family member over the age of 3 or 3 and above. Or you can check out my boot camp course. That's a full course for 5 weeks, teaches you how to be a leader. And that's that next level up. The top level would be hiring me for coaching. But I really like to guide people to that boot camp course because coaching is, well, it costs more money. Also, not everyone needs it. That boot camp course, unless you're dealing with something, a lot of people want the one-on-one stuff, but unless you're dealing with something out of the norm or something really challenging, you probably won't need coaching if you've got a 3 to 12-year-old. Okay, toddlers maybe yes, and teenagers, yeah, that's all I've got to offer with teenagers as the coaching right now. Maybe one day I'll have a course on it. But can you give me an example of how you would deal with backchatting? That's from Sarah on YouTube. Yeah, that's attitude. You don't address attitude. You can't. There's no point. Yeah, you just don't address attitude. What you do is when you set yourself up as a leader, they don't backchat. They just don't. So it's all about you. Backchatting or sass or being rude to you, disrespectful, means that they don't respect you. So you got to work on your leadership, and then they will respect you. Then they're not going to backchat. That's how it works. It's always about you. I teach parenting here. Parenting is all about the parent. And like I got respect from hundreds of kids and troubled teenagers and everything, but I was the leader. So I work on bonding with them, connecting with them, and then they see you, they feel good about themselves when they're with you. They have pride in themselves when they're with you. So they're not going to be disrespectful or backchat. So work on your leadership skills. You can check out the boot camp course. Goes from 3 to 12 years old, or my free behavior board. It's all in the link. Wherever you are, there's a link, and it leads to all of my stuff, my courses and my coaching and all that. And the behavior board is completely free. It's where you get started. Sudden change in behavior with 4-year-olds. She's always angry and screaming. Well, if it's a sudden change at 4, usually the sudden change happens at 3. Because 3 years old is when they stop and they think, wait a minute, you're not in charge, maybe I will be. So there's like a fork in the road at the age of 3 years old. If you're a leader, you can't really lead a toddler, but they're starting to clue into the fact that you are a leader. By 3, they figured it out. So they'll get super easy if you're a leader. If you're not a leader, they go the other way. So it's usually at 3. 4, maybe they're just a late bloomer and that's just happened. They found their power at 4. Or something might have happened that's upset them. I don't know. So otherwise, work on your leadership skills. You can't go wrong with this leadership stuff. Like what I mean by that is no matter what's going on, it's still good to be a leader anyway. Because leadership is all about bonding with your kids and connecting with them in their world and bringing out the best in them. So you may as well do that anyway, just to make sure you're a leader, and then other stuff. If it doesn't sort itself out, then you might want to investigate and see what else is going on. Sorry, I'm laughing because it's a teenage question. They're my favorite age. My teenager is always on defense when I say anything to him and gets very angry quickly. How do I get him to not always be on defense? Yeah, good luck with that. I'll tell you my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Um, teenagers are, oh, okay, these are my top 3 tips. By the way, when you're parenting a teenager, it's not about fairness or reasoning or anything. It's a lot of it's a one-way street. Just warning you, okay? It's a lot of give and not much take. Because they are so absorbed in themselves because they're growing and they're going through a lot with hormones and everything. So anyway, they're very complex. Once you understand them, they're actually quite easy. They're my favorite age. Okay, these are my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. By the way, your kid sounds really normal to me. Number 1, listen to understand and show empathy. You do not listen to gather information to lecture with. I'm assuming you do that because that causes defensiveness. Okay. So yeah, so in other words, use these and not that. So you get really good at listening and they'll tell you everything. If you gather information to lecture with and then tell them what to do, if they've told you something, they're going to shut you out. Okay. When you get good at listening, they'll tell you everything. And then they don't tend to be defensive because you're not telling them what to do. They've got nothing to. My son was 15 and he said to me, I could never rebel and he was mad when he said this, like he was upset. He said, I could never rebel because you're too reasonable and easy to talk to. I guess he was trying to insult me. I was like, well, thank you. But anyway, I said, fine, go clean your room. And he never did. Rebellion taken care of. He needed to rebel. I didn't see that one coming. I didn't get that at all. So I learned something, But anyway, so yeah, but he couldn't rebel. So in other words, he couldn't get defensive or angry with me because I was too reasonable and easy to talk to. So that's the first step. The first tip. The second tip for parenting teenagers is you negotiate pretty much everything. You've got to give them a say in how their life goes. It's not a blanket statement, but it goes something like this. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? You don't do it with everything, but you do it with as much as possible. So it's give and take. So if you're asking them to do something for you, and I know it's for them, I know they should be doing it anyway. That's what I said earlier. It's not about reasoning with a teenager because you can't always do that. But anyway, it just, when you give respect, when you give respect to them, they tend to give it to you. And then number 3 with a teenager, this is one of the hardest ones, is don't sweat the small stuff. Okay. Save your energy for the big stuff. If you try and micromanage a teenager, good luck with that. They're going to shut you out. Okay. If they do something stupid and it's not a big deal, what I would have said is, well, that was stupid. Do you want to hear what I did when I was your age? And then laugh it off. Say, we all make mistakes. That's part of life. Okay, be relatable. They don't tend to get defensive when you take this stance with them, in that you're with them and with them on the road. You're listening to understand and show empathy. Yeah, you're negotiating. You're giving, not just taking or trying to take. So yeah, you got to give respect to get it, especially with a teenager. I used to mentor troubled teens, and I would say they were my biggest life lesson in my whole life. Mentoring troubled teens was my biggest life lesson. I learned, and they're the ones who told me I got to teach this stuff. They said, you got to teach this, Lisa. No one's ever talked to us like you do. They taught me more about life than I think anyone ever did. Mostly about, holy moly, I have a lot more patience than I thought I did. And tolerance and understanding and open-mindedness. You got to be really open-minded when you're working with troubled teens. They come from a different background. They have different values. They were raised with different values. So they don't see the world the way I did. I was raised in a different, in a loving home with really high values, and they're not all raised that way. So I had to, anyway, it was really interesting. I love teenagers. They're by far my favorite age. Because when you get good at dealing with teenagers and being around them, think about it. They're older. They're the most interesting. They got the most to say. They're the smartest. You know what I mean? They got a lot of brain power going on. You can learn a lot with teenagers. Oh, how do I get my 3-month-old to stop wanting to be held 24/7? You can't. Strap them on you. Do something. Babies, I just meet their needs, and their wants. I always say with kids, you meet their needs and manage their wants. With babies, I meet their needs and their wants. And it's not till they're sort of up on their feet and then they start to teach them right from wrong. But yeah, at 3 months old, I meet their needs and their wants. The baby cries, I pick them up. That's my own personal view. Do I believe that's the way you should do it? Not necessarily, but that's my view on babies. A child who wants attention all the time. It depends on the age. Like if they're 16 months and up, I would say that they have to learn independent play, but you have to show them how to do it. Like you can say something like this. Okay, look what I got. I got all these blocks, or I got this kinetic sand, or this, what's that stuff called? This goop slime. Geez, I wish I had that when my kids were little. Anyway, I got grandkids now, so I get to play with kinetic sand and slime. Well, I will when they're older. Anyway, so yeah, I get them started and then say, oh, I'm just going to go do the dishes. And then, use that as your exit and then just don't come back if they don't notice. So teach them how to independent play. A lot of parents are focused on what they don't want rather than teaching them what you do want. So if you want them to learn independent play, you got to get them started. You got to get the motor running, show them how to do it, get them something new and exciting, and then walk away. So, but say, oh, I'll be back. I'm just going to go do this or that, And also, if you play a lot with your kids in their world, they tend to be less demanding. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. Because you're meeting their needs. Their needs are fun. Their love language is fun. So if you're meeting their needs and playing with them in their world, quite often they tend to be less demanding. Like with my kids, I played in their world quite often, but when I wanted some time to myself, I'd just say, scram, mom's busy. I want no kid time, and they'd just toddle off quite happily because I was meeting their needs. I did play with them a lot, so they didn't feel neglected in any way. So make sure that you do play with them in their world and you connect with them and you bond with them so that you can just say, scram, mom just wants a cup of tea in peace and quiet. And they'd happily toddle up. They didn't take offense to that because they knew they were treasured. And they're a child, when you're playing with a child in their world, that is when they feel the most special and the most loved. Praise is overused. A lot of parents use a lot of praise. You're wonderful, you're special. And then they'll say, do you want to play with me? No, I'm busy, but I love you, you're wonderful. They don't give a crap what you're talking about. They'd rather you on the ground playing with them in their world. Their love language is fun. So a lot of parents overpraise and underplay. Play is it's very strong. It gives you a lot of power. When you get good at this, that's all I had with kids. When I was mentoring kids or working with other people's kids, I had no leverage. I couldn't take screens away or anything. But I could stop playing with them for a period of time, a minute or two if they were acting out. That's what I used. I was Fun Lisa or Funny Lisa with teenagers. So they like that bonding, that fun in their world. They like that. So I would just take that away for a minute or so. I'd just say, oh, I didn't like what you just did. How about we just have a quiet minute here? And I just look at my watch and they hate it. They were embarrassed because when they look up to you, they don't want to be rude to you. Makes sense, doesn't it? Have you ever had a mentor or a teacher that you just love? Would you ever be rude to that teacher? No, because you respect them. You look up to them. 3-year-old picked up the F-bomb at daycare. How can I get him to stop saying it? Say, that's a bad word, and use the behavior board and say no bad words. There's a consequence when they say a bad word. And don't overreact. Just say, okay, let's go to the behavior board. If they do it all day long, then you do the second consequence. Check that out. The behavior board explains that. Because there's always 2 consequences for the kids. There's a positive action if they won't do that, or if they keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, then you resort to the negative deprivation. It's media blackout for 24 hours, or you take away a favorite toy for 24 hours. It's taking something away. So you always start with a positive action. If they won't do it, or if it's not enough, then you resort to the negative deprivation. Don't start with the negative deprivation unless they've done the F-bomb like 10 times that day kind of thing. Don't start with the negative deprivation because it's all negative. They did something negative, then you do something negative. You want to replace if they do something negative, you want them to do something good to make up for it. That's why you do the positive action discipline. So they have to do a chore or something or help you with something. What do you do? Good question, Candace. What do you do when the teen says they will negotiate but don't keep their end of the bargain? Well, then put it on the behavior board. Say, what's the consequence if they don't keep their end of the bargain? So you got to start small, though. Pick one battle per week. Parents hate this. They'll hire me to help with their teenagers. They want it all. They're just unreasonable. Like they want it all fixed up in the first week. And I say, no, we bond with our teenagers first. I hone in on their listening skills. I teach them how to negotiate. And then we get one behavior board and we keep it not personal and not a heated issue that we put on there. It would be something like put your dirty clothes in the hamper. If not, you have to do the laundry for the whole family. If not, if you don't do that, then it's media blackout for 24 hours. No screens for 24 hours. So, and they've already seen all this. You've discussed it with them. I also tell parents that when they hire me, when they've got teenagers, to tell their teenagers, just to give it more power, what's happening, is to say, you know what, we want to be better parents. Never say you're rotten, that's why we hired this parenting coach. Because it isn't about the kids, it's always about you. You lead, they will follow. It's just the way it is. So anyway, So I always tell them, say to them, we want to be better parents. So we hired a parenting coach to teach us how to be better parents. And I always say, tell them, and she cost a fortune, so it's going to happen. You know what? They always ask, how much? All the time. I've got a really funny story about that. There's a lot of stuff I tell in coaching I don't tell on here, but anyway, it's a really funny story attached to that. The parents exaggerated what they were paying me and ended up having to pay me that much because we went on for a very long time. They had challenge after challenge. It was quite, so we had a good laugh over that. I laughed all the way to the bank. They cried. Anyway, it was funny. Really cute. It was a long time ago. Anyway, so yeah, put it on the behavior board. But it's never anything attitude-based, never anything that you've argued over. It's never anything big. It's something little. You start small with teenagers. I don't have a course on teenagers. If you're really struggling, that would be one-on-one coaching with me. Okay. Okay. 4-year-old was a good sleeper. All of a sudden, she's waking up screaming and doesn't want to be left alone. She might have just had a really bad dream or a night terror. A night terror, evidently, I don't know. I can't talk about it really because I'm not a doctor. But evidently, doctors have told me a night terror is when they wake up and they're still living the nightmare. They don't quite come out of it. They don't realize that they were dreaming or nightmaring. So you can try a sound machine in their room. Check out my bedtime battles course too. It's 2 parts, how to get them to bed, then how to keep them there. But I suggest putting something new in their room, like a sound machine or something that signifies, hey, you're safe. This is on. It keeps all the bad stuff away. Or have galaxy lights or something different in their room. But it's a process. Yeah. Check out the bedtime battles course. I call it bedtime battles for a reason. It's a battle. It's usually one night of hell. Sorry about that, but I'm just telling you how it is. It's usually a really bad night. So do it on a weekend, but you don't have to get any sleep. But it's worth it. It's like a lot of stuff, short-term pain for long-term gain. And a lot of parents want to avoid fit scenes and tantrums. And I say, why would you want to avoid that? That's where all the lessons are. Their fit scene or a tantrum is their way of trying to manipulate you and trying to cut you down, cut your leadership down. That's like that 8-year-old. I always tell the stories. I was working with this 8-year-old for the very first time. So he didn't know me. And I first started working with him and he asked for something he obviously couldn't have. And I said, no, you can't have that. And he says, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to have a fit. And I said to him, bring it on. And he went like that and he never did. Like he sensed that I was quite okay with him having a fit. Like, bring it on. I know how to, that's my opportunity to exercise my leadership. So yeah, he never did. Never did have a fit. I was waiting for it. And I never would mention it either. Like you don't embarrass them about stuff like that. Remember that time you said you never did have a fit, did you? You never say anything like that. Some parents do. They'll say stuff like that, and that's their own stuff coming out. But yeah, did I feel like saying that? Oh yeah. Whatever happened to that fit you threatened me with? I never said it. That's what I was thinking. Thank you for these lives from Candace. I have 5 kids from babies to teens. Wow, you're busy. You've been so helpful. Oh, excellent. It's just common sense, really, isn't it? Yeah, it's just, to me, it's just common sense. But a lot of parents, their expectations of their children is completely out of whack. And they tend to expect too much from their kids and too little from themselves. You got to work on you. This is all about you. I don't teach kidding, toddlering, teenagering. I teach parenting. So yeah, your expectations are usually way too high for your kids and way too little for yourself. You just sort of expect to get this respect. A lot of parents do. They just expect to get respect. You got to earn that. I earned it. I worked my butt off for it. With every single kid I worked with, I worked for it. So, and then of course it gets easy once you get good at it. But I worked my butt off trying to learn how to do this. I started volunteering in daycare centers when I was 11 years old. I was pretty good at it right from the start. I was pretty good at getting respect with kids right from the start. That's obviously why I was in daycare centers, because I love figuring kids out. But yeah, you got to work for that. You got to earn it. You don't demand respect, you command it. It's all about you. If you're a leader for your children, they're not susceptible to bullying, peer pressure, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're just not vulnerable because they've got a leader at home. They're going to tell you everything. You're a safe place to land. They feel good about themselves when they're with you. They feel safe. Leadership makes kids feel safe. Okay. Someone said something cute. I wanted to, just a sec. I've got so many notes here. It's hard to keep them all. It was just someone wrote something down I thought was really, sugar. Where the heck did I put that? Here it is. This was a while ago. And it was from Christina on TikTok. And she said, and it was in reference to leadership and chores. And she said, adulting isn't all about fun. Kids have to learn that contributing and doing chores is normal, builds character and resilience. She just gets it. You want to raise strong individuals. You want to teach them that there's no way I would pay for chores. And also, I never went in to try and protect my kids. If they got a teacher that was treating them unfairly, I said, good luck with that, because you're going to have difficult bosses one day too. So my kids didn't expect everything to go their way. They learned how to problem solve, how to deal with difficult people. They're both really good at that. So because I didn't go in and save the day. Life's difficult. You want to prepare your kids for life, for reality. A lot of parents, I know that the new style right now is the pleaser parent style. It's been in for about 30, 40 years. I see it going out, to be honest. Drives teachers insane. They're all quitting right, left, and center because kids are all so ill-behaved and they're expected to fix up all this behavior problems. Anyway, it's too bad. But yeah, it's like that pleaser parent style is like I said, it's a pleaser parent. You want to please them. You don't want anything to be difficult for them. You even want them to have participation awards. Stupidest thing I ever heard of. Participation awards. You just turn up and you get an award. Are you freaking kidding me? Talk about raising self-entitled individuals. That's ridiculous. I turned up. Where's my award? Or you're just at the cafe. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's so ridiculous. Anyway, that's what I'm up against. I see the tides are turning though, because it wasn't working. People are realizing it was a disaster. All this woke victim entitlement, that all came from the pleaser parent style. Yeah. You didn't validate my feelings. I'm just a bus driver, lady. How embarrassing to be like that, eh? To be that entitled. But that's what's happening. Okay, I'm going to read another question. This was a funny question I got. Someone said, how do I stop my toddler from being crazy? And I laughed when I read that. I don't know. I have no idea. How do you stop toddlers from being crazy? I thought that was really funny. It's like, how do you make toddlers find their inner adult? They're not there yet. Anyway, I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. And then I'm going to move over to Instagram. Okay, so number 1, childproof your home so you never have to say no. Set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. You bond with a toddler by entering their world, watch them play, and join in. You don't take them to the nail salon to bond with a toddler. You play in their world. Number 4 is you stop with the mini therapy sessions when they do something naughty. They're not about words. They're about consistent corrective actions because they learn through repetition. And the last one is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings, and they're just forming. So yeah, you can't knock the crazy out of a toddler because that's what they are. It's not so much that they're crazy. They just haven't developed sanity yet. Okay, I'm going to move over to Instagram now, and I'm on YouTube the whole time. So anyway, thanks so much, and check out the link. You can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can hire me for coaching. So happy parenting. Sorry, YouTube. I just have to move from one platform to another. Live. There we go. Okay. Okay, this is a good one. Jesse on YouTube. We are in our second behavior board, so you're in week 2, because you do 3 behavior boards in 3 weeks. 1, 2, and 3. So by the end of 3 weeks, you've got 3 separate rules that you're dealing with. Okay, so we're on our set. It's in the free behavior board section. Or you might have bought the boot camp course. I don't know which. Anyway, So we're in our second behavior board, and my 12-year-old wants my behavior to be make her lunch for school in the morning. This is a task I give to her for independence. Thoughts? No, she's asking you to be her slave. It doesn't work that way. Say, what do you want me to stop doing instead of what do you, yeah, so say it like that. Say, no, you can't put slavery on there. So no, I would just say no. I would say, no, my rule will be, what do you want me to stop doing? Okay, so yeah, do that. But yeah, very sly, very sly. That's a good one. Kids are funny. I can say it's a good one. I get it, but yeah, it doesn't work that way. It's good. Uh, oh my God, this is so funny. Love your content. I have an 8-month-old, and this information is mint. That used to be my word back in the 70s. And I would say, oh, mint. If something I thought was really cool, I would call it mint. I had forgotten that. I have a childhood friend who reminded me about that a year or two ago. Remember when you used to say everything was mint? I haven't heard anyone else use that. Not since the 70s anyway. You're probably not that old. So that's funny. How to stop a 2.5-year-old running off when out in public. I love it when I've got an easy answer to something here. You use a harness. So what you do is before you go out, get a harness for them and you put it on them. Actually, there's lots of different ways of doing that. You can even just put like a loop on the back of their jacket or something. If you're a sewer, you can actually just tie a loop. So it doesn't have to be like a proper harness. But anyway, I'm a sewer, so I instantly go to something like that. But anyway, just put a harness on them or something that you can clip a leash into. And you say, now you don't run away. If you do, you're going to be clipped in. Soon as they start to run away, clip, and you have to leave them clipped in for the rest of that outing. Here's the thing that parents don't like. There's going to be a scene. You've got to embrace the scene. The scene is them processing you being in charge now. That is what you've got to learn to embrace that. Because if a kid doesn't have a scene with me, I'm like, oh, great. What am I teaching them? Like if there's something they're used to doing and they like doing and you're stopping it, that's called transition. They don't like transitions. You're transitioning from allowing them to run or them getting away with it. All of a sudden you're in charge. So you have to be prepared for a scene. So what I would suggest you do is go somewhere where it doesn't matter. Like go somewhere like out in a field somewhere where you don't mind having a scene when you're first teaching them this, okay? But you got to keep them clipped in for the rest of that outing. You can't just go off and on, off and on, off and on. You got to teach them a lesson. Do you put the behavior board up on third birthday, or are there indicators that they may be ready before or after? Oh, never before. 3 is even pushing it. That's when but they can start to learn. And they don't learn when it goes up. They learn when it starts to happen. So they don't look at it and go, oh, I get it. Oh, this happens, that happened. Some of them will, some of them won't. It depends on the way they think. Like we all think differently. Some are more creative, some are more mathematical. You know what I mean? They all think differently. They learn as you do it though, but don't do it under 3. Sometimes when people hire me, their kid's going to be 3 in 2 weeks. And I say, okay, let's put them on the board, but really not much before that at all. So yeah. And they can all be on there at 3. That's when they have the ability. This is the thing. They have the ability to stop and think before they act. It doesn't mean they're going to do it. It means that they can learn to stop and think before they act and make a decision. Well, if I choose to do that, then that behavior board says that's going to happen. They'll start to figure it out. Do you know what they like most about it? Of course, is you're on there. And that's when they learn. That's what that gets them more on board with the board, is the fact that they get to punish you. So they love that. It's funny how quick they clue into that. So yeah. And it's funny because a lot of parents will say to me when I'm working with them, and they'll tell me how gifted their child is and how wonderful and perfect and smart and clever. And then they'll put something on the behavior board and then they'll say, but they just didn't understand. This might be a 5-year-old kid. They just forgot. They didn't understand. Was this gifted child you were talking about? Now they're a moron? Like all of a sudden, you can't have it both ways. You know, they can all get it. They can all learn to understand rules and consequences by the age of 3. One mom said something, I deleted it. How did she word it? She goes, my child's either, how did she word it? He's either, Oh, shoot. He's either a genius or a psychopath. I think that was it. I'm going to write it down again. I've forgotten about that. My kid's either a genius or a psychopath. He was very manipulative. I thought that was hilarious. She gave me permission to tell that one. I never say names, obviously. My kids, no, my son is either a genius. And I said, let's go with genius. I love it. Some parents have a great sense of humor. They know, like, this is just something they got to learn. Okay. This is a good question. So I don't get to all the questions because I just can't. What if you were never a leader and now you have to be for your children? Is the damage been a leader reversible? Okay. I specialize in teenagers. I started my business dealing with teen crisis work, and it was reversible then. The thing is, they don't forget it at that age, but it's still reversible. But the older they get, the longer you haven't been a leader, the harder it's going to be to become one. Okay. It's going to take longer. It's going to be more work. So, but it is reversible. But as they're teenagers, they're going to remember the old you. But if you're a really good leader, they're going to be okay with it. They're going to say, I remember when you were terrible at all this. Now you're great at it. They might not say it quite like that, but you get the idea. Yeah, of course it is, because I worked with teenagers. So parents of teenagers, if you can reverse it at 17, 18, I think you can reverse it younger. So yeah, it's always reversible. So, and plus, even though it's harder, would you rather not give it a go at all? You know, teenagers is all coaching right now. I don't have a course on teenagers, but the first step with teenagers is always to say, look, we got this accountability chart. That's what we call the behavior board with teenagers. And I'm going to be on it too, because I want to be a better parent. Okay. So we're all going to have rules and consequences. And, you know, I want you to help me out with this too. And we're going to work on it together. So it's like a team effort. You want to bond with them. Oh, do I feel like telling this story? God, it was cute. I don't know, a couple years ago, whatever. I was working with this mom, and she was really struggling to get along with her, one of her kids, her son. And he was 16. They just bought him a car. And it's sort of an amalgam of stories, but this one the detail is specific to one parent. Anyway, they had really never got along. And her and the son, they always were at each other, right from the toddler. You know, this was the kid that was the challenge. And she resented him because he made her life difficult. And that's the way she viewed it anyway. Okay. So anyway, they bought him a car because they wanted him to be able to drive himself to all the millions of sports things he was involved in and all that. But anyway, every night she had to take him out for a driving lesson. And I've done this one with many clients, but this one in particular, I'll tell you what happened. So every single night they were at each other's throats in that car. That car, when he was doing his nightly driving lesson, was a war zone. She goes, they just about kill each other every single night. So I said, okay, here's what you have to do. Your rule is if you yell on the behavior board, put down the rule. If you yell, the next time you go for a driving lesson, you are not allowed to speak at all, unless it's look out for that train, like something life and death. And she goes, well, I can't do that. And I said, well, that's what you have to do. So we went a little bit back and forth. She didn't want to do that. And I said, that's it. I dug my heels in. I said, that's it. That's your rule. That's your consequence. So anyway, she did it. And she didn't tell him, he knew that she wasn't allowed to speak, but what she didn't tell him, she decided that it was going to be so hard to not speak during the driving lesson. She put masking tape or painter's tape like on her mouth to remind herself not to speak. As she's getting in the car, she saw herself on the side mirror and started laughing. And the tape went like that. It started flapping in her breath, like flapping in the wind. And her son looked over and saw it, and they started giggling. She goes, it was the first time that they've ever really had fun together. And the whole ride, it was the start of this beautiful change in their relationship. But you got to give respect to get it. So now this was a family, and you said, is the damage already reversible? Now think about it. If they'd been at like this for 16 years, all of a sudden they started bonding. You know, does that give you hope? Yeah. Anyway, that was one of my favorite stories. I do that a lot with parents, like they can't talk. That's what they do. They can't speak through something or whatever. But she was the first one that did the tape. I'd never heard of that before. Oh, I can't discuss your nephew. I only teach parenting. I'm very strict about that. Okay. I feel like I'm threatening my kids too much to get them to obey something. Very common. A lot of parents do this. How do I change this? I feel ignored whenever I ask them to do something, ages 6, 5, and 4. Check out my behavior board. It's a way to start getting organized and set yourself up as a leader one step at a time. It's a slow process. It's a slow burn, but you'll start to get it. And by the third week, you'll have 3 behavior boards and you'll start to see a difference. If you want to go to the next level, check out the boot camp course because your kids are right in that age zone. It goes 3 to 12-year-olds, and it's all about your leadership. It's the same thing. You got 3 behavior boards, but by the 4th week, we go into something different. And then the 5th week, it's just more intense, right? So if you want to check that out. But yeah, you're threatening them. It's out of fear because you don't know what else to do. Threats, yelling, spanking kids, it's all done out of fear and frustration. But we eliminate that. Once you're a leader, you don't have any fear or frustration or anything because you know what you're doing. I see it all the time with clients. They start out an emotional mess. They're a puddle. And my kids are walking all over me, and I'm running a huge corporation, or some of them are teachers, principals, child psychologists. What the hell's wrong with me? My kids I can run a whole school or a classroom, but all of us, I can't run my own kids. And then they just feel absolutely lost. Parenting is not like anything else. It is personal. They are a reflection of you, and you're extremely hurt if things don't go well. It's a reflection of you. It's completely different from any other relationship. And but it's fixable. It's fixable. So just check out the behavior board, which is completely free. The course isn't, or if you want the next level up, that's one-on-one coaching with me. 4-year-old with food aversion won't eat anything unless it's a granola bar, chicken nuggets. He smells food and says, no, thank you. Okay, I can't really discuss nutrition because I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor. So I'm not qualified to discuss that. But I can tell you what I did with my kids. And it might give you some inspiration or some ideas. What I did with my kids was by the way, I hate cooking, but I made everything from scratch and we never had junk food in the house. And I was very good at pureeing spinach and everything else you can think of and sneaking it into everything. So I made sure they got healthy stuff, even though they didn't know it. They knew if they didn't eat their broccoli, there was no ice cream in the freezer waiting for them. There was no junk food in the house. And I did make a lot of cake and cookies and stuff, but you can imagine what mine were like. They were not much sugar, but a lot of healthy stuff. So yeah, that's what I did. They didn't have access to unhealthy stuff, so they didn't have any choice. I remember the first time my son went out and had pizza. And he said, it was really weird, Mom, the sauce was red. Well, my sauce was brown because I put pureed spinach in it. I know it was radical. I hate cooking. God, I hate it. I cook with hate. I hate it. But I made everything from scratch. It was a nightmare, but I did it. Just because I hate cooking less than I like eating unhealthy. So yeah, I'm a real health food nut. So anyway, it was worth it to me, but oh God, I hate cooking. Like I love cleaning. I would never have a cleaning lady, but I would have someone prepare food for me. Yes, but I would never hire a cleaning lady. She'd never clean as good as I do. So yeah, I hate cooking. Yeah, I kind of just answered it. Plus with my kids, I cooked around what I knew they would eat. So I knew what they liked, and I don't believe in trying to force feed kids things they don't like. But I did teach them. You have to have, for dinner every night, we had to have 3 vegetables. I think the only 3 they would eat, or 4 or 5 they would eat was, and I put cheese sauce. I made cheese sauce and put that on top. Was broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, and corn, and maybe peas. I can't remember. I think there was 5. And I basically just rotated all those every single night with the meat and whatever else we had. But yeah, I just learned. I kind of cooked to their preference, but I made them try everything. And they would just literally have to touch it to their tongue. And because there was no battling, they weren't stubborn enough to not do it. I would say, you have to try that. It's a new food. But we tried it last month. We didn't like it. I said, but your tastes change as you grow. And then they'd taste it and they go, oh, I kind of like that now. So we never had a battle at mealtime. I just would refuse. I wouldn't do it. So yeah. If they wouldn't eat, fine. Don't eat. Go and, you know what I mean? Like there was no junk food waiting for them. But it's not for everybody. I totally understand that. Okay. 3-year-old loves his 2-week-old sister. You can't expect a 3-year-old to understand concussions, soft spots, brain bleeds, shaking baby syndrome. Never leave the baby unsupervised. A long time ago, my son was 2. Well, he's 34 now, so it was obviously a long time ago. And I had a friend who also had a 2-year-old little boy. We got together quite often with play dates because both our little boys were extremely gentle, and it's hard to find. Like a lot of boys hit and everything, and our boys just didn't. So we got together a lot because they played so beautifully together. Anyway, she had this beautiful new baby girl, and her little 2-year-old gentle, sweet little boy went over, picked up the newborn, threw it on the floor. He just thought, wait a minute, it was cute in the hospital, but now it's home and it's screaming all the time. So yeah, it's not that they're mean. They just, you got to say to them, no, you can't. This is the rule. You cannot pick them up. I have to supervise, blah, blah, blah. Don't expect them to learn. Just supervise 24/7. Keep that baby safe. They don't mean to be rough with them. They just don't, you can't expect them to understand. Oh God, you're going to hate me. My 8-year-old gives herself anxiety attack if she doesn't want to do something. She's a great kid. Hate to hear her like that, but sometimes hard to decipher if it's an act or real. Well, I don't know, but I'm assuming, almost 100% assuming it's an act. It's her way of because it's bothering you. Does she get the breathing and all that stuff and all that? Does she do all that? She's probably really good at it too. But I may be wrong. Take her to a doctor if you're really concerned. But my gut reaction, just from what you've written, my guess would be it's all an act. But I could be wrong. But my 100% guess is that it's an act. It's just a guess. Oops, I got to skip ahead because people come and go. And okay. How to conquer daily battles with 26-month-old. I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. So you might get some tips in there. Okay, because you got to work with them, not against them. Most parents are working against a toddler. I work with them. I understand them. So I work to their strengths and try and deal with their weaknesses. Okay, so number 1, childproof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is when you want to connect with a toddler, you enter their world. You don't go to the nail salon to connect with a toddler. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Number 4 is similar. When you want to discipline a child, do so in their world. It's not about words and discussing all their big emotions and big feelings. That's garbage. That was invented to feed the mom's needs, not the toddler. Anyway, they're about consistent corrective actions. Their world is actions, not words. And number 5, stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed in there. They're just forming. So just go with it for now. But those are some tips. Maybe you'll get some help out of one of those. Especially the set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Boredom tends to lead to a lot of annoying habits. But she did lose her little brother over a year ago, calling for a therapist tomorrow for her. Just a sec. Yes. Just a sec. I'm going back. Was that the 8-year-old? I need to know that. I have to, oh geez, I've scrolled really far ahead. I'm going back. Was that the 8-year-old? She lost her little brother a year ago? 8-year-old, oh, for God's sake. She could very well be traumatized by that. So I take back what I said. I didn't know that, okay? She could very well be traumatized. Often anxiety attacks come from trauma. So yeah, if you want to hire me or get a therapist for her or something, for sure, I would. Absolutely. So yeah, that's a very important point. So really sorry to hear that. That's the worst. Now I feel sick. That's the worst. Yeah, no, very well could be traumatized. Absolutely. Well, now that's all I can think about. Anyway, yeah, make sure you get some help for that for sure. Whether it's me or a therapist or both or someone else, someone else who's been through it. Oftentimes, it doesn't sound the same, but it actually is. I lost my dad when I was 14. He got sick when I was 10. I didn't know anybody else who was going through anything like that. And it was, I've been through a lot. I'm 63 now. That was almost 50 years ago. And I've also had a miscarriage. I miscarried multiples. None of that compared to losing my father when I was a kid. It changes who you are as a person. Grief is death and grief will completely change who you become. And yeah, it's important to work with that. So, but yeah, that was the most traumatizing thing I've ever been through, and I've been through a lot. And but yeah, so I'm really sorry to hear about that. Okay. Oh, geez. Okay. 3-year-old starting introducing her to my husband's business. Eventually, it will be hers. How to maintain a good relationship with my daughter when a lot is required. Uh, you're you're jumping the gun there. She's only 3. Don't put a lot of pressure on her. Let her make her own decisions. She may not want that business down the road either. You got to let her make her own decisions. Don't yeah, don't put that on her yet, I would say. There's a lot of pressure. That's that legacy stuff, right? There's a lot of pressure. I wouldn't do that. I'd be very careful. I'd be very careful with that. Um, yeah. I mean, it may very well be hers, but she may not want to run it. She might not want to know much about it. So make sure you keep her options open so she can make an educated decision, not a guided one. Do you know the difference? Don't guide her into making the decision you want. Open, like give her many choices, many options, so she can decide what would make her happy. Yeah. 6-year-old, very sassy. You don't stop the sass, you improve your parenting. The sass is a result of your parenting. Between the ages of 3 to 12, your children's behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting. 3 to 12. Toddlers are crazy. Teens can go a little bit off the rack, a little bit, off the rail a little bit. But yeah, that's your parenting. Their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting. So set yourself up as a leader and they're not sassy. They don't sass a leader. It would be embarrassing for them because they like themselves when they're with you. They look up to you. You're like a mentor. They can tell you anything and they have a voice. They're proud of themselves when they've got a leader for a parent. So they just wouldn't sass a leader. Yeah. 15-month-old throwing food on the floor. What do we do? Okay, well, make sure they never get food anywhere but sitting at the kitchen table. Like I never fed my kids anywhere around the house at all because food just becomes a toy and they have no respect for your home because they're mashing stuff everywhere. Anyway, so they're at the table, they throw food. I would say no, and I would pick up the food, throw it in the garbage, and then I'd feed them the rest of it, hand feed them with the spoon myself. Are they going to have a fit? Yep, that's okay. There's the lesson. The fit is the lesson. So yeah, if they don't want to eat, just say fine, clean them up and let them go. They're still hungry. You can try it again in half an hour or 15 minutes. If they're really little, try it again in a few minutes. Sit them up again, let them have a little bit of food. And if they throw it, say no and hand feed. Just keep doing that. It's the fits, scenes, and tantrums. Parents are terrified of them. I love them. That's where the lessons are. That's my opportunity to exercise my leadership because they're transitioning from not listening to you to listening to you, to learning to accept what needs to. I taught my kids, you've got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. Like they would, if they said to me, can we watch TV? I would have said, sure, as soon as you've done your chores. That's why I never told them what to do. I taught them, if you want to do something, make sure you've done what you need to do first. So they learned. They had good self-discipline. They're both really good workers. Like they just have really good self-discipline because I taught them that when they were little. Life just isn't about fun. You got to actually make your bed before you go out and have fun. You got to put your clothes away and put your dirty clothes in the hamper before you can watch TV. You got to do your homework before you can watch TV. You see what I mean? They understood that from a really little age, so they were self-disciplining. Oh, someone requested to join me in the live. I did it once about a year ago on TikTok, and I have a big following on TikTok, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was brand new on lives, and someone said, "Can I come in?" I said, "Sure, come on in." Being the hospitable hostess here, and they just wanted my audience. I think I had really big lives back then. There was like thousands of them on there, and Anyway, so yeah, they just started talking about their business. So I just never let anyone in again. I don't, it was, I just was, I was horrified because here I am. I'm here serving you, like helping you out. And then I let someone come in to pawn their business on you. I was so disgusted. I was mad at myself, but I didn't know. But I was so disgusted that they just wanted my audience. And who's going to buy off someone who does that? You know, like it was just so, it was awful. It made me feel sick. It's so icky. Like I just would never do, it was so rude. I would never do anything like that. Not that I'm perfect, but I wouldn't do that. Okay, I'm going to get going. I'm going to move over to TikTok now. If you go on the link above, you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can hire me for coaching. Otherwise, I'm on YouTube the whole time when I'm doing these lives. And I go from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok. But I stay on YouTube throughout that whole time. Anyway, I'm going to get going over there now. And thanks so much for joining me. Happy parenting. I'm talking to YouTube. I have a personal TikTok also. And I used to make the mistake of accidentally going on there. And it's a small channel. I don't have much of a following. And the people would always say, why are you on here talking about parenting? Because I talk about old lady fitness usually. Hello, I am. How you feeling? Y'all good now? Because I am was in the hospital. Geez, you must be 7 months pregnant? 7 months pregnant? So hope you're feeling better. Okay, so we're just waiting for people to turn up. I'm going to look on. Okay, this is good. Leslie on YouTube asked me, not exactly parenting related, which it is. It kind of is. But I'm curious how you came up with your company name. I saw in another video you said you don't actually like the word brat. The reason I put that in there, it's actually kind of a long story, but I used to work with troubled teens. And they said, you're always busting brats. So that's where that sort of originated. Then I took this course about 17 years ago about how to start a business. It's government funded and you take like, it's a whole week or two. Maybe it was 3 weeks. It was a long course and you turn up every single day. And anyway, then near the end, we had like 20 people in this course. And we were supposed to pitch our business names. We were supposed to come up with 3 business names that we liked. I love Bratbusters, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But anyway, that was my first choice. So I had that, and everyone at the table said, oh, I love it. I love it. The reason I liked it is I thought if I don't ever want to work with someone without a sense of humor. They understand that's just tongue in cheek. It's just supposed to be funny. So I thought if someone's offended by that, I know I'm not going to want to work with that type personality. Like I just wouldn't, oh, it's so rude. I wouldn't want to work with that person. So that's why I did it. I'm eliminating all the people I wouldn't want to work with. So anyway, the funny part is there was a woman in that course and she hated me from day one. She was a real prissy, boring, judgmental woman. And she was in this course. You see, we're all in that together. She hated me and she was trying to befriend anyone. Well, of course, I got real friendly with everyone. No one liked her, but she couldn't figure it out. But anyway, when it came around to judging the name Bratbusters, she said, I'm just so offended by that. I would never name it that. And I went like this, Bratbusters it is. She's exactly the kind of person I don't want to work with. So anyway, that's how it came about. I just thought it was funny, basically. But yeah. She was brilliant. She had no idea what she did for me. I just thought that was brilliant. And everyone else got it, but she never did. They all just thought, as soon as I said, yep, Bratbusters it is, everyone started sort of snickering. No one liked her. She was so prissy. Just one of those. It's all based on insecurity. I understand it. Doesn't mean I like her. Like it's all based on her own insecurities. Is judging everyone else made her feel better. But I know it's all based. She was kind of had a problem, but whatever. It was funny. So that's how it got started. And a lot of people are very offended by that. And that's okay. I don't need everyone to like me. If you're worried about people liking you, like what I mean is, and I tell this to teenagers too, is do you like everyone you meet? And they say, well, no. And I say, well, then why would you expect everyone to like you? Like if I walk into a room full of strangers, I've been like this my whole life. And I know so many people have asked me about this. How do you do that? They say, you walk into a room like you own it. And I say the reason is it would never dawn on me to think I hope people like me. Never. I always think I hope I meet someone I like, because it's usually mutual. So, and there's lots of people I don't like and lots of people that don't like me. I'm okay with that. And I try and teach that to kids too, that you're not going to like everybody and not everyone's going to like you. That's okay. It's about chemistry and connecting with people. We don't always connect. Sometimes we're like that, and so it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with either one of you. You're just not meant to be friends, or you see what I'm saying? So that's why I never ever would enter a room full of strangers. I could walk in anywhere and I always think, God, I hope I like someone here, because I'm not going to be anything different. I'll never change who I am to try and please anybody. I was raised with a lot of confidence. My mother taught me that. Not that I think I'm better than other people, but I'm no worse. No one's better than me. I think that's it too. I never worry about what people think of me, because I don't think anyone's better than me. We're all kind of the same. We're just different. I learned that a lot when I was working with troubled teens, because I must admit I was kind of judgmental of some of the decisions that they made. And then I thought, how do I get over this? And I realized I was raised in a really lovely home with wonderful parents. They weren't. They were raised, maybe they were abused, beaten, neglected. And so their value system was very different. They had to survive. So they would do anything to survive. I never had to. So that's what taught me about don't judge other people unless you've walked in their shoes. Timeout, taking away toys, corner, none of it works. Yeah, I hate timeout. I can't stand it. The corner, I hate that too. That's still the same thing. It's like putting them in jail. Yeah, I can't stand timeout. Never do it. Anyway, taking toys away. Okay, check out, well, how old are they? I need to know the age, because if they're under 3, so if they're a toddler, it's consistent corrective actions. If they're 3 and over, you start with the behavior board, and that's free. Or you can get the boot camp course. It goes from 3 to 12. 4 years old. Okay, check out the boot camp course or the behavior board. The behavior board's free. The boot camp course isn't. It's fine. It's more, obviously, it's intensive. So you go through 5 weeks teaching you how to be a leader. But yeah, you don't do timeout. I can't stand it. There's 3 things I hate. Timeout is the least of the ones I hate, because I think it's humiliating and it teaches them nothing but how to feel like crap about themselves. They're sitting in the corner and you think they're thinking about what they did. You know what they're thinking? I'm garbage. That's all they're thinking. They feel like crap about themselves. You look at a kid sitting in timeout. You look at them. How do you think they feel? They feel like garbage. It's horrible. I hate timeout. Anyway, did I get my point across? The one that, number 2, the one that I hate the second least is, or most, least, whatever, I always get that wrong, is diversion. If they're doing something bad, you divert. You never divert with broccoli. You always do it with candy. Here's some candy, so you're rewarding the bad behavior. So don't do diversion. You can do indirect diversion with a baby under the age of 16 months. That's another topic. But anyway, and the one I hate the most is the countdown. When they're doing something bad and you say, if you don't stop that by the time I count to 3, 1, 2, 2.5. For one thing, it makes you look weak and fearful of them. So it's not a leader would never do that. So, and also, they've learned that it's okay to pound their little brother for 3 counts, but then afterwards they break and there's no punishment. They've learned nothing. They've learned it's okay to be rotten for 3 counts, but then after that, it's a mixed message. It's okay to be awful in the short term, but not in the long term. And it makes you look afraid of them. It's a real fear-based parenting method, because you really don't want to have to punish them. So you're just hoping they'll stop by the time you get to 3, right? That's why parents do it. No way would I use that. Never. Put me on timeout, baby. Put me on timeout, baby. I don't know what you mean by that. Actually, it was funny because I used the example of, imagine if you did something wrong at work and your boss said, hey, you're 36 years old, you go in timeout for 36 minutes. Someone wrote back, they said, I would love a 36-minute break. So my point was kind of lost. That was funny. So what should we do? Everything else I talk about. If they're under the age of 3, it's consistent corrective actions. If they're 3 and over, use the behavior board. It's completely free. It's in the link above. Can you give some examples to put on behavior board for adults and for children age 4? Okay, so for adults, it's always no yelling. If you yell, always your rule is no yelling. And then your consequence is you have to play hide and seek or something with them for 10 minutes. So if you yell, you have to play hide and seek for 10 minutes. Okay, so their rules would be something like this. If they hit, it's always no hitting, because if they're damaging themselves, property, or someone else, it's always no hitting, or no bad words, or make your bed every morning before 10 a.m. or something. You always have to put a time limit. If you want them to do something, you have to put a time limit on it. Pack up your toys within 10 minutes of being asked to do so. And that's assuming you've got a toy rotation system in place, so they only have a few toys out. So yeah, it's something that you want them to stop doing or start doing. And if you want them to start doing it, you have to put a time on it. Put your dishes in the sink after dinner within 10 minutes of being asked to do so, or 10 minutes of getting up, or as you get up, or you always have to quantify it or qualify it. And then the consequence is, if they don't do any of those things, there's two consequences for the kids, just one for you, but there's two consequences for the kids, because you know you're going to do yours. They might not do the first one. The first one is a positive action. So they do something bad, you get them to replace it with a good deed. They do something good. They have to help with the laundry, or they have to make your bed. If they didn't make their bed, they have to make your bed and theirs the next morning. If they don't do that, then it's 24-hour media blackout. You do the negative deprivation. You resort to that if they don't do the positive action consequence. Then you resort to the negative deprivation. So you're giving them a choice. It's your choice. You can have you don't need to have media blackout. All you have to do is make the bed. So you're giving them options, you see. And you don't come in with the big guns right away with the media blackout, or taking a favorite toy away for 24 hours or something. Anyway, check it all. It's all explained in the behavior board. And the boot camp course, that's 5 weeks, and it's all paced out. It's not 5 weeks of 24/7 hell. It's paced out to make it easy for you. You've just got one rule per week that you're dealing with in the first week. Then the second week, you've got two behavior boards. The third week, you've got three behavior boards, 3 different rules for the kids. Your rules and consequences and their consequences, they can all stay the same. But their rule has to change every week. You know what's funny is kids, even though the parents' rule may have one rule for 3 weeks, rarely do the kids ever say, why doesn't your rule change? There's lots of things like that I often think, why aren't kids asking that? I would have. I'm sure I would have. Some kids do. I was very inquisitive. I would have, why are you not doing it? But most kids don't. I find that interesting. Anyway. But yeah, if you do get the boot camp course, do not go to week 4. You can read the whole thing and then go back and pace yourself out. You can lengthen it by a week or 2. Do not rush it. Everyone wants week 4 in that boot camp course. That's all I ever did. I never used behavior boards. You go away from the behavior boards in week 4. Don't go there first. You're learning the leadership by doing one step at a time. 1 behavior board is 1 step, 2 behavior boards is 2 steps, 3 is 3 steps. Then you can go free form in that in-the-moment discipline where you don't need the behavior boards anymore. I don't know why I did it like that. What's your opinion on the cried out method for sleep training? I hate it, but I did it. What else are you going to do, right? Yeah, I hate it. That's what I did. Certain things that I recommend that I'm not comfortable with, one of them is the cried out method. But if you want them to sleep through a night and they're a baby, what else are you going to do? You have to do it. I remember with my kids, my son more, my daughter, I think was she was pretty easy kid. But my son, he went through it. Like about 10 months, I think I decided to do it. He was getting up every night for 10 months. And I thought, that's enough. He's not getting up to feed. Like he would just want to breastfeed for like 1 minute. And then he just got used to getting up. He didn't need to. So anyway, I did it, and he's every 5 minutes or so, I'd go in there, you're okay, I'd pat him on the back, and then I'd shut the door, and I'd sit outside of his room crying. He'd be crying, I was sobbing into a pillow. It was hell, I hated it. But what else are you gonna do? So yeah, I don't like that. I don't even like, I'm not recommending it, I'm just saying what I did. I don't know what else to do. They're babies. What are you gonna say? I think you're old enough to sleep through the night now. What else? What are you gonna do? What's your opinion on ADHD medication for children? I'm not a doctor. I have no opinion on it. None. I don't know anything about it. I do hate medication overall, as does everybody usually, but sometimes it's necessary. And I don't know if your child it's necessary, but yeah, I'm very, I don't want to take medication or medicate my kids if I don't have to, but if I had to, I would. But that's up to you and your doctor to decide if you should. It's a judgment call. It's like asking me, what do you think about my religion? What do you think about homeschooling? What do you think about breastfeeding till they're 8? What do you think about Montessori versus main, just regular school? I don't have opinions. Those are your own personal choices. So yeah, it's a tough one though, isn't it? No one wants to medicate their kids, but sometimes, maybe that's the best decision. It's up to you and your doctor. What's a consequence for me if I do yell? It's always have fun with the kids. It's on their terms. So you play in their world, kid-led play. Could be hide and seek. If it's a teenager, it's something like you can't talk for the rest of that night. If you want to communicate, you can only do so with pen and paper. They love that kind of stuff. The parent can't talk for the whole night. Stuff like that. Make it fun. It's always fun for the kid. Your consequence is always fun for the kid. And ask them. Say, what would you like? Give them some ideas. It's usually hide and seek for 10 minutes or something like that. Yeah. And then parents, a lot of them ask me this, and it makes sense. I can see it. They always say, you mean my punishment is playing with them? Aren't they going to be offended by that? Like, you mean your punishment is having to be with me? Do you know I've been teaching this for 17 years? Not one kid has ever complained. Not once, not ever. Not once, not ever has a child been offended by that. They are so thrilled that their parents are going to play hide and seek for 10 minutes. Not one has ever been offended by that. Isn't that interesting? They're so desperate for you to play with them in their world. They've never been offended by that. I would have thought maybe they might have been, but that's never happened. What do you think? Would you expect them to be offended? Oh, a huge portion of my clients ask me that in coaching. Aren't they going to be offended by that? And they never have been. I've never heard of it. But wouldn't you could see it though, right? Makes sense. I play hide and seek in so many things already. Okay, well then you have to let them give you a makeover, makeup, something silly. They can, color your face or something, and you have to go grocery shopping looking like that. Do something like that, something silly. I haven't told this story in quite a while. I used to work with this, I'm very careful there's no way I'd give any identifying information away at all. So I have redacted this whole story, but it went something like this. Very powerful, famous man that I worked with. And he was quite arrogant. We didn't like each other at all. Anyway, he knew he needed help. So anyway, it was teenagers. He had a 16-year-old girl, I think it was, something like that. And they were at war constantly over what she wore, everything. And he hated all her boyfriends, etc. So anyway, he yelled a lot. And I said to him, okay, so here's the thing. The next time you yell, she gets to give you, now they were very wealthy and he was famous. So they had chauffeurs or whatever, drivers for the kids to go take them to school. So I said, okay, here's your consequence. If you yell, or whatever it was that he was doing wrong, I said, if you yell, your consequence is your daughter gets to give you a makeover and you have to personally drive her to school, get out of the car in front of the school for everyone to see at prime time with full makeup on and open up her car door for her. And that is your consequence. He fought me on that like you wouldn't believe. And I said, here's the caveat. You can put a sign that I made up because that's my punishment or something. So he could put a sign on the back of his car that explained why he looked like that. Anyway, of course, photographers it ended up in the paper or something. He loved it. They had a blast. Like it was the first time that he ever really became human. He was a very arrogant, and I told him that all the time. I said, you got to put your arrogance in a closet when we're working together. I said, come on. And he knew what he was like. But anyway, when he fought me a lot. And, but anyway, he ended up being a lot of fun. But you see, what would that do? What did that make her feel like? Imagine how she felt. Like my dad would drive me to school, let me make a fool out of himself. I get to give him a makeover and make a fool out of himself. So yeah. Anyway, it was the start of a lovely relationship that they ended up having. Does that make sense? Some of them, that was some of the stuff I do is pretty wild. That was one of the wildest ones I ever did, only because he was so well known. And that's why I made him do it, was because, and he kept saying to me, well, come on, what's your second choice? And I said, do you want a refund? I would not give up. I said, that's the only one I'm coming up with. So yeah, it was really cute. It was a long time ago. If you're not having fun parenting, you're missing out, because a lot of this is fun. Like if I messed up with my kids, or if they messed up, my son once, he was 12 years old. And I think he kept me waiting. I think that's what he did, because they were never cheeky, but I think he kept me waiting something. And I said, okay, or he forgot to put his laundry away or something. And then he said, oh, sorry about that, Mom. How about no game, no PlayStation tonight? And I said, I'll tell you what. I said, we could do that. But I said, how about you give me a makeover for 30 minutes, like makeup, full makeup for 30 minutes, and that'll be it. So he said, okay. So we did it. I laid on the couch, and I love getting like facials and all that stuff. So, and he's putting makeup on me. We were cracking up. He said, I feel like a serial killer, like, oh, pretty girl. And I'm laying there like a corpse getting this makeup done. We had a blast. So have fun with that behavior board. You're supposed to have fun. Like your punishment or some of their punishments can actually be fun and funny. So it's not serious. Like the idea behind it is, but get creative, have fun with it. Anyway, the funny thing is my son never did that again. I loved it, but he says, yeah, this isn't going to happen again. So he never took that punishment ever again. I loved it. How to teach an almost 3-year-old to share toys with others. That's a difficult one. You can teach them not to grab things away from others, but they don't learn empathy till they're 3 years old and 9 months. I've been saying that age for about 50 years now. And the professionals are now saying 3 years and 9 months. That's when something clicks in their brains and they can understand empathy and sharing, that other people actually have needs too. That's empathy, that they actually have feelings and needs. But before that, you can just go through the route. Like it's not that they do it because they want to, and they probably never will, but they can learn that other people have needs at 3 years and 9 months. Before that, just teach them not to grab stuff away. But I'll tell you, I got a little tip about sharing. This is one of my favorite. There's 3 different ways I teach kids how to share. But what I'm saying is they don't really get it until they're 3 years and 9 months. Okay, let's say that you've got 2 kids and there's 1 swing. Okay, so you go to the park and you say, okay, there's only 1 swing, there's 2 of you. Let's say they're 3 years old. So you say to them, I'll tell you what we're going to do. And I always talk like this when I'm taking charge, right? Now I say, I'll tell you, 1 swing, there's 2 of you. I know what I'll do. And kids listen when you talk like that. I said, I know what we'll do here. I'm going to flip this coin or whatever it was. I got something in my hand. You have to guess which hand, something like that. And whoever goes for each turn is going to be 2 minutes. I'm going to time each turn on the swing for 2 minutes. But whoever goes first, they only get 1 minute. Okay, so we're going to flip this coin. You pick a heads or tails or whatever, and they pick. I go, okay, 1 minute. So they go, okay, 1 minute's up. So you make it kind of a game, and you're teaching them about fairness, about how to take turns. You're teaching them this. You're teaching them to understand it. That's just one of I have 3 different ways I teach sharing. That's just one of them. But anyway, what happens is then you're timing 2 minutes. They lose interest, and they end up going off and doing something else anyway. But you're teaching them how to share. I don't feel like telling it right now, but it's just because I've told so many times. But I'll tell it again soon. Really funny story about my kids sharing Lego. I've told it so many times. I'm sure you've heard it if you're a regular. But yeah, how mom came in the room and everything changed. Oh gosh. I like to draw things out too. When I'm taking charge, I drag it all out. Like if I heard them arguing in the other room, I would say something like this. Like usually they'd whisper because they didn't want me to hear if they were ever arguing over anything. So I would say something like this. Hey kids, I'd call out from the other room. Do you want me to put down my cup of tea, stand up and walk in there and take care of stuff? They go, no, never mind. I love all that stuff. Okay, 3-year-old is incredibly shy. Is there anything we can do to help build his confidence? I kind of hesitate to say shyness and confidence are sometimes two different things. You can have a really insecure child who isn't shy, and you can have a really confident child who is shy. So it's a social skill. Shyness is a social thing. Um, yeah. Like a lot of really extroverted people are terribly insecure. Anyway, um, so yeah, what you can do is just keep exposing them to the world, keep throwing them out there. Like my daughter, remember she was 3 years old and I put her in dance. She did not want to do it. And she was used to going in the gym daycare every day because I worked out every day. So she was used to doing that. So I was quite surprised that she was just really shy in this dance class. But I just said, "You're doing it." And I just said, "You're doing it. You're fine. I'm right here." And she knew there's no way I was going to go in and save her. She survived. She kept looking over at me with, looking all sad and everything. And I did feel bad for her, but I wouldn't give into it. So just keep exposing them to different things, forcing them into stuff. She ended up being a joiner like you wouldn't believe. She joins everything. She needs to be busy all the time. When I was a kid, I didn't like shy kids because I thought they were just unfriendly. I didn't understand what shyness was. Kids just don't come up and say hi. I didn't understand not doing that. So I avoided all the shy kids. I couldn't understand them. I thought, well, they're not very friendly. My mom had to explain that they're just shy. I couldn't grasp that because I never had a shy minute in my life. I couldn't grasp why you wouldn't just go up and say, "Hi, I'm Lisa," or "Hi, do you want to go play?" Like I just didn't understand it. Isn't that interesting how kids interpret things differently? If they aren't that way, they don't understand that other people are different, right? But I can remember my mom trying to explain shyness to me. I was probably about 3. I couldn't understand it. How could you not just go into a room and talk to everybody? How can I minimize my toddler having tantrums? Well, okay. When you ignore tantrums, I actually have a whole course on how you deal with tantrums. Okay. You're helping to minimize them. Shoot, how do I word it? Oh, duration. That's right. You're decreasing duration, intensity, and frequency. It's the word duration. I always get mixed up on that. So you're decreasing the duration, oh God, I get that mixed up all the time. Duration, intensity, and frequency. You're not stopping tantrums, but you ignore them and then they will decrease over time. Over time. It just means they have a temper and they don't know how to deal with it. A tantrum is not bad behavior. It's a loss of emotional control over not getting what they want. So here's how you ignore a tantrum. Yeah, I'll go into this and then I'll get going. It's that was swing story. It's my favorite story to explain tantrums because there was 2 moms, 2 toddlers having tantrums and 2 different ways of handling it. I'm going to mix it up and I'm going to do the other mom first. So anyway, it's a true story. I took my 2-year-old son who had tantrums. My daughter never did, but they're born to have them or they're not. Okay. So anyway, I took him to the park and there was another mom there. She was new to the neighborhood. And so we were introduced. "Hi, how are you? I'm Lisa." So anyway, we both had 2-year-old boys and there was 2 swings. So anyway, we're chatting, we're introducing ourselves and we're not really paying any attention to the boys. We're just putting them in the swings. Maybe this is why they had tantrums. I don't know. Who knows? They're just toddlers. So we're putting them in the swings and they both pointed to the other swing. So we said, well, let's just switch them. Who cares, right? Because we're just trying to chat. So they both started having a tantrum. Okay, so instantly. So she took her son over to the bench, and while he's having a tantrum, she's trying to discuss his feelings, what he should have done different, what he did do wrong, what he should do. She's talking to him all the way. "Give me a hug. Mommy loves you. I know you're upset right now. It's okay to be upset. But if you calm down, blah, 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 blah." Went on for about 20 minutes. And then when he started getting the hiccup cries, these ones. So he was finished having the tantrum. Then she's discussing everything that just happened. She gives him another mini therapy session. This poor kid was right through the coals. He had 30 minutes of a therapy session. He's 2. Anyway, I guess they finally went back on the swing. I don't know. But anyway, this is what happened with my son. So I take him over to the bench. There's 2 benches there. And he went to run back for the swing. I put my arm out like that. He already knew me at this point. He sat back and had his tantrum. Now, this is me. I'm like looking up at the trees. I'm not talking to him or looking at them. You completely ignore a tantrum. But you can restrain them from running away. So anyway, and I'm looking up at the trees and the birds. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting. And he knew this. He was cluing into this by now. So you ignore the crazy and you reward the calm. So a tantrum is the crazy zone. So while he's having a tantrum, I'm right there. He knows he's safe. I'm right there. I'm just looking around. As soon as the tantrum stopped, it only lasted about 2 minutes. Soon as he stopped, I said, "Oh, you all done? Okay, let's go on the swing." It was 2 minutes of hell for him. This other kid was 30 minutes of hell for the mother too. Like, it was just a disaster. And I felt bad for her, but I don't give out unsolicited parenting advice. Maybe she watched me and learned, I don't know. But anyway, so my kid had a blast at the park. He only had 2 minutes of a tantrum. Her kid and her was misery. So you see the difference? She was feeding it. Any attention is tantrum food. She was fertilizing it the whole time. Then he finished having a tantrum. Where's the reward for getting out of it? Why should he ever stop having tantrums if it's going to be a therapy session after that, a lecture on everything he should have done instead? What a disaster. I just felt she did the best she knew how, right? But anyway, so that's how you handle a tantrum. And my son was starting to clue in that mom's not going to feed this, so I may as well stop. He knew as soon as he calmed down, he was getting back on that swing. Her kid didn't know that. There was no lesson there at all. My kid knew as soon as he got a hold of himself and calmed down, he was getting back on that swing. He knew that. He was putting the pieces together, even at 2. So anyway, does that make sense? Okay, I gotta go. Thanks so much for joining me. Check out the link above. You can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course goes 3 to 12 years old. It's all about you and your leadership skills. It's teaching you everything I'm teaching you here. It's just about you. It's all about you. Parenting's all about you, not your kids. It's all about your leadership. Or you can hire me for coaching, all in the link above. And I'm on YouTube the whole time. All my lives are saved on YouTube. So I think that's all I got to say. So we'll see you, what's today, Wednesday? So I'll see you tomorrow for my regularly scheduled live. You can check that out in the link above. Anyway, happy parenting. Bye now.